The first bus of the day passed me by, and I let it. That's the part one still can't explain, not the way I look back on that whole spring, half in love with my own memory of it. I stood at the stop with my bag on my shoulder, watching taillights shrink into the fog, and I didn't chase it. I told myself it was because I'd forgotten my badge. That wasn't the reason. Her porch light was on. It was always on, even at 7 in the morning, like she didn't trust the dark to leave when it was told to. "You're going to be late," she said, not looking up from the hose she was fighting with, water hissing out sideways from a crack near the nozzle. "So are you," I said, nodding at her robe, her bare feet on the cold concrete. "I don't have anywhere to be." She said it easy, like a joke, but something under it didn't laugh. I don't know why I crossed the yard. I told myself the hose was the reason. I could fix it in 30 seconds, I'd done worse with less. She stepped back to let me kneel by the spigot, and when I looked up to ask for the wrench in her hand, she was already looking down at me. Not at what I was doing. At me. Neither of us moved for a second too long. "Here," she said finally, and put the wrench in my palm, but her fingers didn't let go right away, like she'd forgotten how. I fixed the hose. I don't remember doing it. What I remember is her voice, quiet, almost to herself. "You missed your bus." "I know," I said. She didn't ask why. I think we both already knew. Her name was Renata. I found that out 3 days later, from the mailbox, because she never offered it and I never asked. Asking felt like admitting I'd been thinking about it. I started noticing things I had no business noticing. The way she always poured 1 cup of coffee and let half of it go cold before she remembered to drink it. The ring she still wore, twisted around so the stone faced her palm, like she was hiding it from herself and not from anyone else. Once I saw her sitting on the porch steps at midnight in the same robe, not crying exactly, just very still, and I went back inside before she could catch me watching. I told myself I felt sorry for her. That was easier than the truth. The second time I came by, she'd asked, said something about a shelf that wouldn't stay level. She talked more than she needed to. About the divorce that wasn't final yet. About a husband who'd stopped looking at her before he ever stopped living in the house. She said it lightly, the way people do when the weight of a thing has worn a groove they can walk through without falling in anymore. "You don't have to fix everything," she said, when I reached for the drill again. "I don't mind." "I know you don't." She was quiet a second. "That's sort of the problem." I didn't ask what she meant. She stepped closer to check the shelf's edge, close enough that I could smell the coffee on her, and her hand landed on my arm, not to steady herself. There was nothing to be unsteady about. "Stay a minute," she said. "I never have anyone to talk to who isn't tired of me yet." I should have said I had somewhere to be. I didn't. I stayed longer than a minute. Longer than I'd admit to anyone who asked, if anyone had thought to. We ended up on the porch steps, her robe traded for a sweater that didn't fit right, sleeves pushed past her elbows. She was telling me about a trip she never took, Portugal, a version of herself that packed a bag and then unpacked it the same night. And I wasn't really listening to the words anymore, just the shape her mouth made around them. "You're staring," she said, not stopping. "Sorry. I didn't say stop." I looked away first. That felt like losing something, though I couldn't have said what. Her phone rang inside, loud in the quiet, and she didn't move for it. 3 rings. 4. When it stopped, the silence after felt louder than the ringing had. You're not going to get that? It's my sister. She calls to remind me I'm alone now. I know already. She said it flat, no self-pity in it, which somehow made it worse to hear. Without deciding to, I put my hand near hers on the step, not on it, just near, close enough that the cold air between our fingers felt like something with a texture. She looked down at the gap like she could measure it. A car door slammed somewhere down the street. Neither of us flinched, but she pulled her sweater tighter, and the moment folded itself away, careful, like she'd practiced putting things back before. You should go home, she said. Not unkindly. Like a warning she was giving herself as much as me. I stood. My legs felt like they belonged to someone less careful. Yeah, I said, and didn't move. I didn't go home. Not right away. I got as far as the sidewalk, one hand on the gate latch, and stopped there like the metal had an opinion about it. Behind me I heard the screen door not quite close. When I turned, she was still on the top step, arms wrapped around herself, watching me not leave. This is stupid, she said. Not to me exactly. More like she was trying the words out to see if they'd hold weight. What is? You know what? She came down one step. Then another. I'm not. I shouldn't be standing out here in the cold having this conversation with someone who could be my. She stopped herself before the word landed, like she'd caught it by the collar. Say it, I said. I don't know where that came from. It didn't sound like me. I wasn't going to. I know. Say it anyway. She looked at me for a long time. Long enough that the cold stopped being the reason my hands weren't steady. You could be 10 years younger than my little brother, she said finally, quiet, like a confession has to be quiet or it doesn't count. And I keep finding reasons for you to stay. Nobody said anything after that. The porch light buzzed faintly above us, the way old bulbs do right before they decide whether to keep working. Renata, it was the first time I'd said her name out loud to her. It changed something in her face, small, involuntary. Don't, she said. But she didn't step back. Don't what? She didn't answer. She just looked at my mouth like it was a question she hadn't decided how to ask. The porch light buzzed once, then died, not dramatically, just a small click into dark, the kind of ordinary failure that makes everything else feel more exposed instead of less. That was when the headlights swept across the yard. Renata's whole body changed before I understood why. Her arms dropped from around herself, her spine went straight, and she stepped down past me toward the gate like I'd become furniture. That's him, she said. Not loud. Flat, the way people get when they've had practice going flat on purpose. A car door. Footsteps on the walk, unhurried, a man's silhouette with keys still in his hand like he hadn't unlearned the habit of using them. Run. You didn't answer your phone. He said it like a grievance, not a question, and his eyes moved to me just a beat too long before he decided I wasn't worth finishing the thought about. I need the Wheeler file. It's in the office. It's 11 o'clock, Marcus. I know what time it is. He was already past her, already at the door, and she followed to stop him or maybe just to keep him from looking too closely at who he was leaving behind on the lawn. I heard pieces through the screen. Boxes. Lawyer. A drawer that stuck and then didn't. When he came back out, file under his arm, he looked at me one more time, really looked, this time, and something in his face rearranged itself into a version of understanding that wasn't quite right and wasn't quite wrong either. Long night, he said to her, not me. Got in his car. Didn't wait for an answer. Renata stood in the doorway a long moment before she spoke. Now you know, she said. That's what I've been. I could have let her have that sentence. Let it sit there as the last word, the tidy shameful ending she seemed braced for, like she'd already written the part where I nodded and went home, and this became a story she told herself about a boy who fixed a hose once. I didn't. That's not what you've been, I said. That's what he made you carry. She laughed, short, no air behind it. Don't do that. Don't make it sound like a movie. I'm not trying to make it sound like anything. I'm telling you what I saw. I stepped closer, not fast, giving her room to stop me if she wanted to. She didn't. A man who didn't look at you once. Not really. Not the way. I didn't finish it. I didn't have to. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying, just holding it there, the way she held her coffee, like something she'd let go cold rather than admit she needed it. I'm 46, she said. You have your whole life in front of you. I have a lawyer and a house I can't afford alone and a sister who thinks I've lost my mind. I know how old you are. I don't think you do. Not really. Not what it? Renata. Second time I'd said it. It landed different this time, steadier. I'm not asking you to explain yourself out of something. I'm asking you to stop deciding for both of us what I'm too young to want. She was quiet a long time. The wind picked up the loose end of her sweater sleeve, and she didn't fix it. Come inside, she said finally. Not an invitation to anything but the warmth. It's cold. And I'm tired of being brave alone on this porch. I followed her in. The door didn't lock behind us. Neither of us noticed. It's been 8 months since that porch light died and never got replaced. Renata says she likes it that way now, one less thing pretending to know when it's supposed to work. The divorce went through in March. I was there, not in the room, just outside it, the way I'd been outside so many rooms that mattered to her before I was let in. When she came out, she didn't say anything. She just took my hand like it was something she'd done 1,000 times already, not something new. People still do the math out loud sometimes, not to my face, mostly, but I've heard the pause after we leave a room, the recalculating. Renata used to flinch at it. She doesn't anymore. I think somewhere in those months she stopped asking permission from people who were never going to give it honestly anyway. What I know now that I didn't know that morning at the bus stop, love doesn't always arrive as a decision. Sometimes it's just a hose you don't need to fix, a bus you don't need to miss, and you do it anyway, and only later do you understand you'd already chosen. She still lets her coffee go cold sometimes. I've stopped trying to fix that too. Some things aren't broken. They're just how a person carries what they've been through. I don't know what this is going to look like in 10 years. I only know I'm not standing at a bus stop anymore, watching something leave without me. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?